This is Recovery Lifestyles with Carmel. Recovery Lifestyles is committed to raising awareness and ending stigmas surrounding addiction and mental health. On today's show, I'll be speaking with Jen Elizabeth, who is a 42-year-old devoted wife and mother to two amazing children. She has dedicated her second chance to life to addiction recovery and healing from childhood traumas. Jen shares her story, the wreckage, and the reckoning as a way to keep the light on for anyone who is suffering under the darkness of silence. Jen Elizabeth is a recognized recovery speaker, writer, and blogger living in Southern California.
So, hi Jen, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
I'm awesome. So I'm super excited to have you on the show today because you have a cool story. And I think that I think people need to hear this. They're going to love you. You got some good stuff. So would you like to share a little bit about who you are?
Sure, I'd love to. Well, my name is Jen, and I am a recovering addict, and I am a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, and I'm also a survivor of, I'm a motherless daughter, basically. So I'm healing from a lot of stuff, and at one time, all those things piled on top of each other to create a super dark world. I lived soaked in shame. Really, I've been ashamed of who I was since before I could even spell my own name. That's how far back it goes. And, it's taken me a long time. It's been a long road. The memories I have are so deep in my bones, they're like etched in there. And, I was not always able to speak about it. Silence and shame has been a big theme in most of my life. And, now to be on the other side and to actually be able to look back and be like, you know what, I wouldn't take a single thing back that's ever happened to me, because every single minute of it has made me the woman I am today. Every minute of it. And I actually feel like, I have a story, and it may not be a story for everybody, but it's a story for someone.
Yeah.
It's a story that someone who is suffering in their silence needs to hear. And so I found my truth, and I stand in it, and I've learned to speak it. And it's so freeing. I feel so free. I really do. Yeah.
That's what I get from you. I mean, reading your story, because you've published a book recently, and just reading that story and taking those experiences that you have and then actually meeting you and talking with you, that's exactly what I get, is that you're free. You've done the work and you're free. So did you want to, is there anything like on your mind that you want to dive into? Because there's so many aspects of your story.
Yeah, it's heavy, huh? Gosh. Good morning. I always feel like kind of awkward, like, hi, nice, bright, sunny morning. Let's talk about sexual abuse, But, there's so much hope in it, because we are not alone.
Yeah.
And there's so many things we could talk about, and I hope we get to talk again, because, I could skim over all of it, but, we could talk about, I think a conversation that needs to be had is the mother-daughter relationship.
Yeah.
I think it's something that women are afraid to speak about if their mothers were not capable, able, willing to be maternal. We have been sold this lie, this myth, that all mothers love their children. And it is not true. Not every mother is capable, due to possible narcissism, mental illness, whatever, addiction, whatever, to love their children. And I am proof of it. I am a woman born of a woman who knows nothing about authentic love for herself or for her children or for anybody. And I know there's importance about mothers and dads, and I know that there's daddy syndromes and women who seek out men to replace the dads that they didn't have, or the, absent fathers, or the shitty fathers, whatever. But we need to talk more about the women who are growing up, raising themselves to become women without a woman there to nurture that.
Yeah.
It is important. And it is not a betrayal of all women to speak about this. You know, I am a feminist, you know, in a way. And, you know, we never want to talk about other women, you know, we're supposed to. But the truth is that my mother, I think there's a difference between mom and mother.
Yeah.
You know, my mother has battled severe mental illness that she has never sought help for. And, you know, I grew up with her always trying to kill herself and more in a threat to scare and get attention than the reality of it, you know. And she seemed to do it every time when I was home. You know, I'd be like 7, 8, 9, begging my mom not to do it, you know, and her just looking straight through me, you know, and that weighs on your self-worth, you know. If your own mother doesn't love you or doesn't want to live for you, you know, it weighs on you. And then you have the huge thing of it all having to be a secret. We weren't allowed to talk about it, because if you bring up any type of emotion in the family I grew up in, then the whole world might swallow you whole. You know, it's like there's so many pink elephants in the room that you can barely breathe.
Yeah.
And it's a wound that, you know, I say I have a mother-shaped hole in my heart, and I do, and I always have, you know. And you know, it's something that, you know, our mothers teach us how to love ourselves, how to feel whole in our bodies, you know, how to become women, nurturing, but they can also teach us how to hate ourselves. They can also teach us how to stuff what we're worthy of saying, teach us that our feelings are not valid. You know, that kind of stuff, that's, you know, you're raised like that, you're groomed. I'm a groomed secret keeper. You know, I have been groomed to protect the mess.
Yeah.
And you protect the mess at all costs. As long as nobody confronts the mess, then we're good. But if you confront the mess, you know, who knows, might get upset. And so that has carried on through my life of me swallowing what I needed to say. You know, it's okay if you were hurt by your mother. You can say it. It's not, you know, I'm not trying to shame anybody else. I'm trying to release my shame.
Yeah.
Because I've been made to feel that it was my fault, that I upset her. I made her want to kill herself because I didn't get a good grade, because I wasn't skinny enough, because I wasn't perfect enough. Mm-hmm. That you carry that through your life, that perfectionism, that silence, and just stuffing it. And I was so soaked in shame. It was like a beast in me.
I find it fascinating, like what you're saying right now in that story, because there's an underlying issue with many women I speak to who are, whether they're in the addiction right now or overcoming or whatever, and there's this common denominator that they were not loved by a mother, or everything you're saying. So you're right. This is something that needs to be brought to light and to be talked about, because we are.
It does.
Yeah.
When I share about it, you know, the amount of women that message me, you know, usually privately, because people aren't ready to talk about it, you know. Plus, you know, there's so much dynamic going on, because then you have other family members that are protecting the mess as well. And how dare you talk about your mother like that, you know?
Yeah.
But the amount of women that DM me, private message me and say, thank you. Oh my God, this is my story. Tells me I'm on the right track. It tells me that someone has to find the courage to do it, because it's something that needs to be talked about. Because if no one's healing their mother wound, then what kind of mothers are we becoming? Mm-hmm. And then it just passes on and passes on and passes on. You know, and I have a daughter. I have a son and daughter. And it's not that daughters are more important or sons, you know. It's a different dynamic with each, you know. But when I found I was pregnant with a girl, it really kicked me into high gear to address that wound head on And it was hard. It's hard to say that my mom didn't love me the way that she should have. It's hard to say that, but it's not my fault. It's not my cross to bear. You know, her pain was not my responsibility.
Go ahead.
It's time to release it. You know, you have to let it go and lay down the stuff that you're not supposed to be carrying so you can pick up what you are.
So how does somebody, I mean, I think we're going to be doing a huge service today by talking about this, because there are going to be a lot of women from lots of different paths of life that will hear this message. And so if there's something that is coming up within them that going, oh my gosh, maybe I relate to this a little bit. You know, I know awareness is the first step, but what would you want to say to them? What can they do to start, you know, because that can, right? Like if we're not equipped with the right tools, that can go really sideways. So,
you know, the first thing is just, you know, what a courageous step it takes to just recognize it. You know, that's huge, because a lot of times when we're taught to avoid things and we're taught to paint the ugliest of pictures pretty, just recognizing and being aware that things maybe weren't right, that maybe I am carrying pain that is preventing me from living a full life, pain that's not even mine to carry. That's huge. And then there are a lot of groups, believe it or not, that you can seek out on like social media or, you know, online, that do deal with mother wounds specifically. And a lot of them are private because, like I said, you know, and like I think you could agree that it is so shame-based. It's still so much shame about it, about speaking about stuff like this. And writing has been huge for me. You know, you don't have to write a book, but just journaling, writing, going back, you know, it's called, and I call it inner child work. Like I actually, you look at a picture of myself from when I was a little girl, and I'll write, and I write to her. And especially that I'm a mother now, I can be her mother. You know, I'm the little girl that wasn't loved. I can love her. And I can pick her up and hold her and tell her that none of that was her fault. And none of that was hers to carry. And she is sunshine and love and perfect and whole and capable. And I visualize her.
Yeah.
And it doesn't heal you overnight. You know, it's a long journey, you know, and one thing I would suggest is not to be so concerned about speaking your truth as to be concerned about learning to stand in it. Because sometimes if you speak your truth before you're ready, the negative stuff that might come is too much.
Yeah.
Speaking your truth is wonderful. That's like the final stage. They say the final stage of healing is when you're ready to take what has happened to you and use it to help somebody else. But that is down the road. You know, don't jump from silence to speaking out about your mother, because it's not all positive from strangers and from family. And, you know, it takes a long time. And what's more important is learning to sit with it, sit with that pain, and sit with the reality of what was really going on. And there's forgiveness that takes time. And, you know, my forgiveness lives in boundaries. You know, I wish that I was wrong about my mom. I have searched and searched to prove that I was wrong, to prove that my memories are wrong, because there's nothing I want more than to be like, oh my God, I had the wrong impression, you know, and have this wonderful relationship. But unfortunately, my mom is still existing from her illness and her pain and her selfishness. So forgiveness cannot live in that relationship, because no steps are ever taken to change. You know, she takes no responsibility or no steps to heal her life. I wish she could heal her life. You know, I wish I could heal her, but I can't heal anybody else. I can only show people what healing looks like. And that's really what a healer is. We lead the light on for people that are still in the dark. I can't lead her out of her dark. I can just be here. And my door would, is always open for if she were to ever just, I used to cry at night and just want her to acknowledge something. Even just say, I'm sorry you felt that way. Even though it's a crappy apology, but it's never nothing. So I've learned that I have to let that go. And so my forgiveness lives in my boundaries, and I have to protect myself, protect the mother that I am. And, I've had to go no contact, which is not easy. It's not easy for anybody. No contact is, it's rough, especially on somebody who is a narcissist or, struggles with mental health issues, because they can't see past themselves. So they can't even see why you're doing it.
Yeah.
So you're just a horrible person. How dare you not speak to your mother? When in reality, she's not even been a mom to me. She was never there when my children were born. She was never been there to help me with homework or to talk about boys or to talk about friends or my body or my periods, nothing. I've learned this on my own.
So, and I hear, like, as you're speaking, I hear that there's still a lot of pain with that.
There will always be a lot of pain.
I
think that it's true.
Yeah, that was what I was going to ask was, do you think that pain ever will go away, or does it become easier?
It becomes so much easier.
Okay.
The thing that with my pain is like, my pain is turned into power. It's the power to change my life. Yeah. So in some ways I'm feeling a lot of pain, but it's like also a lot of fire inside, because I really feel so strongly that everyone is capable and worthy of healing their lives. Yeah. There will always be pain, a little pain. I don't think healing means there's never any pain. It just means that we've learned to use that pain in a different way than just to suffer from it. I don't suffer from that pain during the day, Yeah. When I speak to people about my past and about, how I have taken my life back from that, it's like a mix. It's like, yeah, it was hurtful, and it's okay to feel that way. And it's okay to always feel a loss. Every year at Mother's Day, I get thrown for a little loop. I get kind of like, one, it's the guilt that I still kind of feel sometimes that, should I, out of obligation, send her a card, which I don't do anymore, because that's just, it just hurts me,
Well, and you're kind of opening up the door to invite her back in, and then to
never
get into
been
the cycle. Yeah.
That's the thing. It's never ended up well. It always ends up bad. So I just, it's okay to feel pain. I think, I feel so free from all that. And, but I do feel very passionate about it also. I think it's important. And so I get kind of fired up. Like, I feel like I want someone to hear this, because I know that there's a lot of women suffering with this that are just, afraid to speak, afraid to face it, afraid to tell, a close friend even, or, there's so much mixed abuse going on, and it is abuse, and it's okay to say it's abuse. There's all different forms of abuse, but until you release it, like, that affects how you are a woman in your own life.
And so I want to speak to that for a minute for any of the women listening that have a similar experience or even are just becoming aware of it and are now mothers. How do you parent your children going forward? How do you become aware that maybe, because we're going to repeat the same patterns. Yeah. So how do you be the change going forward?
For me, I think it would be, I'm so grateful that I made through some healing before I became a mother. But like I said, I really kicked the mother wound in high gear, because I'm healing from so many things. It's like, when will it end? My God. And the truth is, I think the journey will last me a lifetime. you know?
Yeah.
And I think that it's just being, you know, learning how to be self-aware. And like, there are things, little things I do that I'm like, oh my God, that's my mother, you know, like there's silly stuff, but like there's towels in the bathroom that are there for decoration. Don't freaking dry your hands on them, because then I'm gonna have to wash one and it's gonna not match the others. Like, that's my mother. And so I try to, like, as therapy, I'm like, dry your hands on that towel, just do it. Like, you know, it's therapy.
Because, you know, somebody might see that towel.
Somebody might. I'm telling you, it's crazy. But, you know, I'm just really aware. And I think that, like I said, I think the inner child work really helps for me, because learning to be a mother to my little girl that I was in my childhood has helped me to be a better, more present mother to my own children.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's kind of reversing time and starting over. It's kind of like I'm re-raising her with a good mother, with myself. And as I do that, it's like transcends into my own motherhood. You know, in my family, with my children, they can tell me anything. They can tell me they're mad at me. The world will not end. I apologize to them if I've hurt their feelings.
That's huge right there. Right there.
It is, you know, even, you know, I validate everything they feel, because when you stop validating them, even the little stuff, it builds up, and it just weighs on their self-esteem and their self-worth. And there's so much out there that's going to do that to them anyways. You know, there needs to be some place where they know that they are worthy. And if I want it to be here, I want it to be home with me. And hopefully, you know, God willing, and, you know, there's just a lot of praying and a lot of good vibes and a lot of, gosh, I hope everything, you know, I just have so much hopes for my children. But even if they go down to the wrong path, I want them to have been raised from little to know that I would never think less of them. And they cannot make me upset. Like, they cannot make me cry. I don't, you know, my mom used to cry and use that as a way of manipulation.
Yeah.
That's so heavy on little kids, to feel like they're powerful enough to make their moms depressed, you know, or sad, you know. So my kids can make me feel absolutely bananas, you know, that I make sure that I don't word it in a way that puts the ownership on them. Because really, it's up to me how I respond to them.
Yeah.
I'm 42. They're 6 and 2. So if I can't control myself, then that's not their problem, even if they're coloring on my walls, which they do frequently.
I hear you on that one.
Oh my God. Yeah. I just, you know, I want them to be free, man. I don't want them to suffer the way that I have, you know. And I'm so grateful that I've made it to the other end. But what I could have died so many times, because, like I said, you know, I'm a recovering addict, and, you know, I have been so determined to avoid my pain that I was willing to die to do it.
Right. I never thought of it that way. That's awesome that you just said that, because I never thought of it that way. I probably have in the past, but there's something there.
It is the truth, because I just didn't want to feel or face what I was trying to keep secret and what I was trying to avoid. And I would have gladly died if that was what would happen. Yeah. It just was too much. And the longer we avoid it, the bigger it grows. Right. You know, every year that we're avoiding, it just grows bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And so, like, the mountain is enormous when you have to finally stand up and turn around and face it. It takes a long time. You know, there's no timeline to healing. Don't like compare your healing to someone else's. You know, it's just, some people may heal faster than others. Some people may not heal as thoroughly as others. I mean, I just feel like if people just really focus on how they feel and their own hearts and their own inner child, we do a lot better than the comparing game. We all play it with random things, but believe it or not, people compare healing, which is just,
yeah,
insane.
I think it's kind of a new trendy thing though, right? It hasn't, at least in my, in the 16 years that I've been working a program and getting sober, this is the first time these last couple of years that it's actually become acceptable to talk about these things. And so I think there's a lot of people that might jump on the train just to get some attention because of their wounds.
Yeah.
And that, we don't know what kind of damage is going to be done with that in the future as well. I mean, a lot of us that are addicts can see it coming, but we don't really know. And the comparing game is kind of the new addiction, right? When it comes to social media anyway.
I'll tell you this, real healing, like real bone to skin healing, is not pretty. It's not bubble baths and candles. It's not peaceful. There's no perfect yoga pose, Real healing is like devastating.
Yeah.
It is horrid. It's snotty noses, and you don't want to shower, and you can't even face the fucking world because you just are so raw.
Yeah.
And so I feel like just, ignore the fancy schmancy healing, because that's kind of, I don't know. Get to the dirty healing, because really, the stuff we're healing from isn't fancy anyways. It's horrid. It's painful, and it's destroyed our lives, and we've destroyed ourselves. I mean, I have my biggest abuser. I mean, I've abused myself way longer than I was ever in my mother's home or ever, with the man that molested me. So, I have to face all that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not easy,
yeah.
But I promise you that it does get better, and then it does get different, and then it feels like freedom.
Yeah. I know I have a lot of gratitude a lot of times, and I feel lucky that I was able to do the really messy work, the years of it, in a time where there was no social media, because I think that has allowed me to go deeper because nobody was watching me, and I didn't feel like I had to be anything to anybody, Yeah. So as we're about to wrap up, is there anything that's on your heart? Like, I know there's a lot on your heart. We probably could sit here for hours talking.
Yes. Yeah.
But is there something in particular that you just feel that you really would like to share?
I just maybe would just like to say that, the power, I just want to re-emphasize that the power to change and heal our lives is in the pain that we're avoiding. That is where the gold is. So you may think that you're doing yourself a service by not, digging in that pain, because aren't you supposed to be happy, and aren't you supposed to be healthy, and aren't you supposed to be chipper and smiling? But, all that pain is where you're really going to feel the freedom. And I just encourage everybody to just, go where the love is. Find a community. They are out there. If you need to message me, message you, whatever, find a community where there's love. Don't try to search for support in people that can't even support themselves. I mean, this is heavy stuff, and go where the love is. That's so important. There is communities of women that are doing this work and are healing and are there to not be judgmental and not be, critical of how you're healing or what you're saying, and or you're just free to be you. I think that's probably the biggest thing, because we're raised without that type of balance in our lives. We're raised with, criticism and judgment from the people that are supposed to be our best friends, our first friends, We don't even know what real friendship looks like.
Well, how can you when you're, your first friendship, maternal friendship, was damaged?
It's
So,
abusive. Yeah.
yeah.
That's what I'd say. You know, there is, it's out there.
Yeah.
And if you Google search mother wound, honestly, you will actually be directed to a lot of amazing women that are doing this work and that have Facebook groups and Instagram groups and websites that you can join and feel free and just observe for a while if you want, and just see how much you relate to these women. And that's the thing, you know, everybody's stories may be a little bit different, but the core is the same.
Yeah.
The hole in our hearts is the same, but it can be healed.
Mm-hmm.
It really can.
Well, thanks for sharing that. And if anybody who is listening would like to connect with you, how can they do that?
You know, the easiest way right now for me would be through Instagram. It's resurrection with a K _of _me. And I answer all my DMs, and, you know, I'm totally here to help. You know, if you just want to vent or cry, or, you know, or if you just want to be, you know, get some referrals, you know, I know a lot of women that are amazing women that are doing big things for this conversation. And, I'd be happy to help anybody. You know, that's the best way for me right now. You know, I have so many future plans, but right now we'll just keep it simple. But yeah, please reach out. Please.
Well, and underneath this video, I'll have that link that can go directly to you. I'll also have a link to your book. We didn't touch much on your book, but we can always do that in the future, because I have a feeling people will want to hear back from you. I know they will. And I have so much appreciation for you and your story.
You so much.
And
I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah. So thanks for being here today, and we'll chat soon.
Anytime. I'm available. Well, you know, I would love to come on again. I have 2 small children, so I literally barely pee by myself, but I would love to come on again. You can relate, right?
I can relate. It's been a few years since I've peed alone.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Toddlers. Awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks again.
Thank you.